morning to you. It is Wednesday, December 28th. I'm Abby Huntsman in for Ainsley Earhart this morning, and we begin with a Fox News alert. The Obama administration again denying its involvement in the anti-Israel resolution, and word this morning that Secretary of State John Kerry could be about to make things a whole lot worse.
Then Trump Tower gets evacuated over reports of a suspicious package. But New York Mayor Bill de Blasio's office mocks the president-elect because of it. Where's the respect? I'm not seeing a whole lot.
And drama kicking up for the Rockettes. After the group is confirmed to perform finally at President-elect Trump's inauguration, one Rockette trashes her fellow performers who have agreed to be there. And that's not all. Mornings are better with friends.
Van Halen at 6 a.m. in the morning. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah, this is out of Radio City where the Rockettes hang out.
6 a.m. jump is a little aggressive.
I'm
ready to go, but
that just gets me in the mood for the show.
You know, we were talking about the Rockettes. Where are they going to perform at the inauguration? Is it the parade? Like, it's not going to be up on the balcony?
It's like a 1 and a 2, and let's just step on the cabinet. You know,
Ed has all the answers. Where are they going to perform at?
I don't know. I've never seen.
Ed should have that answer.
That big.
Ed's going to get on that. He's going to report back.
Last time it was like Beyonce doing a solo.
Yeah.
So now you're going to have what, 40, 50 dancers? It's going to be fun.
Well, we've got more on that story coming up shortly. But still, there is a whole lot of news about what's going on with Israel, and Secretary of State John Kerry expected to speak later on today. But the Obama administration is denying that there was any pre-involvement in what played out here. Obviously, Israel is saying that they've got proof that they were pre-orchestrating this whole entire thing.
That's right. Yesterday, in light of this UN resolution, which is a blatantly anti-Israeli UN resolution, it's not just about settlements in Judea and Samaria. It's about the Western Wall. It's about East Jerusalem. It's a condemnation of Israel. They're not denying it, saying they're not involved, with tepid denials, and we'll play some of that today. But John Kerry's also now moved up the lame duck Secretary of State John Kerry has moved his speech up, and there's a lot of speculation about what he might try to say and how he may try to shape in whatever way he can the peace process going forward.
Well, some of the indications we're getting, clearly what he's going to do is try to push back on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has been very aggressive about pointing the finger, as you say, directly at the Obama administration. And look, a spokesman for Benjamin Netanyahu was on the Kelly File last night saying they have this evidence showing that the Obama administration, as Pete said, directed this. Not just that they were involved in it, but they planned this whole thing out, this UN resolution. Watch.
We know that there was a deep collusion between the Obama administration and the Palestinians in order to push this United Nations Security Council resolution forward. I don't think that everything that I know can be shared on TV or can be shared with a global audience. I want to explain just very briefly why it's so dangerous, because it actually preempts negotiations. It tries to give the Palestinians everything they want up front. The idea that the Jewish quarter of Jerusalem, the Western Wall, is occupied territory. I mean, what if somebody brought a Security Council resolution saying the heart of Washington was occupied territory, or the London Bridge was occupied territory?
You have a lot of people saying, why is anyone surprised that this is playing out right now? Because if you look back at the past 8 years and President Obama's administration and the relationship that he has had with Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu, it has not been great from the very beginning.
You're right, although they've repeatedly denied there was any tension and said, oh no, everything's fine, and then here's what happens on the way out the door. And look at what they're doing. We've made this point the last couple of days. If Hillary Clinton had been elected, do you think, number one, this anti-Israel resolution, the U.S. government would have abstained on it and let it happen and set the table for Hillary Clinton that way, number one? And number two, that John Kerry would be out there today laying out like sort of almost the Palestinian side of this, pushing back against Netanyahu and setting up a worse situation for Hillary Clinton? No.
That's exactly what he's laying out as a pro-Palestinian position. I think we have a map of, we're not going to geek out here, but of the 1967 borders. But this is effectively what they want to go back to, the pre-67 borders, which puts, I love what was previously said. It's like if the London Bridge or D.C. were given away to an adversary force, the Golan Heights in the north, the west, the so-called West Bank, and the Gaza Strip, key areas and key terrain that Israel took after that war, and has given back some of it. But if you give back all of it, or you go back to, it puts them in this incredibly precarious environment, surrounded by enemies and terrorist organizations. And there isn't one piece of land that Israel has given over to the PLO or the Palestinians that hasn't turned into a terrorist state. And understanding that, is understanding the very precarious existence of the state of Israel, which is why a vote in the UN some people might say, what does that matter? It's just a UN resolution. It matters because the international community is going to try to condemn them and force them into bad moves.
Yeah, there are a lot of people questioning the purpose right now of the UN in general. For example, we had a producer who covers the UN, and he emailed out sort of a snapshot of the past year of the UN, and he said that they have adopted 20 anti-Israel resolutions just compared to 4 for the rest of the world, 1 for North Korea, 1 for Syria, 1 for Iran, 1 for Russia. Right. That just puts it sort of in...
God forbid they spent any time saying Kim Jong-un is a bad force. Let's take him on. Let's do something about the situation in Syria, hundreds of thousands slaughtered. Let's do something about that. No, they're not.
It's become an anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish, anti-Israel bashing community, and Israel's got one friend on their side that always blocks and always stands up for them. It's the U.S., and they've decided not to. And John Bolton last night was on the O'Reilly Factor talking about how, this vote or abstention is actually a reflection of how this administration has always felt. Take a listen.
I think there is personal score there to settle, but I think this is a deep reflection of Obama's ideology. And he sees Israel in much the same way I think he sees the United States. He dislikes American exceptionalism. He dislikes Israeli exceptionalism. And I think he sees this as his way to set it straight. They're just one more country, just like the United States is one more country. And he's going to try and affect that in his remaining days in office. That's what this vote was about.
I think that's an interesting point. And this time in history, you're going to have more and more individual countries fighting for themselves, and maybe Congress taking a serious look at the UN once they get back in session after the new year.
Yeah, you've heard conversation of pulling funding, the lack of any relevance whatsoever. And John Bolton's point is right. In the New York Times, it talks about how John Kerry's speech, the one he's going to give tomorrow or today, is in line with international consensus. I mean, that speaks to what this administration's about,
right? What's the global consensus at the UN the other day? It wasn't pro-Israel.
Oh, no, it hasn't been for a long time.
The opposite, yeah.
If we bend to that, we bend to a very different world.
Are they sipping their lattes as well?
Of course they are. In skinny jeans. All of them.
All right, we've got to get over to Lisa Booth for some headlines this morning. Good to see you, Lisa.
Hey, guys. I'm not wearing skinny jeans, unfortunately.
You look great in them, though, I'm sure.
Thank you. And now for Fox News alert. Breaking overnight, 2 strong earthquakes rattling across state lines. The first quake was reported near the Nevada-California state line. A second quake happened just minutes later. They could be felt as far away as Sacramento and Carson City. So far, there are no reports of major damage or injuries. And tributes are pouring in as the Star Wars fans mourn the loss of their princess. He could have won a third term if he had wanted to.
I'm confident that if I had run again and articulated it, I think I could have mobilized a majority of the American people to rally behind it.
But Mr. Trump says the lame duck Democrat wouldn't have stood a chance since he failed to help Hillary Clinton. Tweeting, quote, President Obama campaigned hard and personally in the very important swing states and lost. The voters wanted to make America great again. This as 2 more names are added to the Trump administration. Tom Bossert as Homeland Security Advisor and Mr. Trump's longtime attorney, Jason Greenblatt, as Special Representative for International Negotiations. Well, a security scare at Trump Tower met with jokes by a spokesperson for the mayor of New York. Trump Tower briefly evacuated as police investigated a suspicious package. It turned out to be a child's backpack filled with toys. After the all clear, incoming press secretary Sean Spicer tweeted, "Thanks NYPD." To which Mayor de Blasio spokesperson responded, "No problem, we'll send you the bill." If you remember earlier this month, the mayor asked the feds to pay for increased security in the city. And those are your headlines.
Thank you, Lisa. Really? Even that's political?
Thank you. We'll send you
a bag full of toys, right?
That could have been really a frightening thing, though.
People were shouting. They were scared. So making light of it is a little odd.
No. It is, yeah. But that relationship's been strained for a while.
That's true. All right, so the inauguration, can you believe this? I think it's, 24, 23 days from now? That is unbelievable. So not everyone has said they want to perform at the inauguration. And to which Mr. Trump has said, you know what, this is not about the A-listers, this is about the American people. But the Rockettes apparently are now confirmed, right, Ed, to perform. You know all about this.
I've been following this very closely.
It is on the Rockette beat.
Well, I'm just trying to figure this out because you have a member of the Rockettes trashing colleagues. And at one point, basically laid it all out there and saying, quote, we do a lot of events, but there have been no events that could cause trauma. And doing this would cause trauma for some people. Performing for Donald Trump is traumatic. I mean, do they need a safe space for the Rockettes, or what is the deal?
Trust me, if they're going to be in a safe space, it's going to be inside the bubble of the inauguration, which will be about the safest place on the planet.
That's a great point.
You know what I mean? And to be a part of a historic event like that, and it also is completely voluntary from what I'm told. I mean, you don't have to perform as a Rockette. No one's going to force you.
Yeah, there had been confusion about that, and a couple of days ago, the union basically said, look, if you can opt out if you want. So what's the big deal?
Yeah, well, some of the performers that they have said have declined. Elton John's one of them, Garth Brooks, Kiss, David Foster.
Wait, was Kiss on the lineup?
I don't even know if they've been officially asked.
They were all people who rumored to be possibilities, I guess.
Yeah, but the question is, do the American people really care? Because the folks that got out and voted for Donald Trump didn't vote for him because Kiss was supporting him or not.
No, that was never the issue.
That was never the issue.
The celebrity videos were never in his favor in this election. It turns out the American people didn't care at all. We want to know if you care, though, America. Tweet us, send us messages on Facebook, emails, and let us know. Is this important or not?
Is there somebody you'd like to see perform? Friends@foxnews.com.
Yeah, we're taking suggestions today, aren't we?
No, I actually was going to suggest, I didn't want to sound like I was sucking up, but your voice, we've said it.
Oh my gosh, you're so nice.
Your voice is fabulous.
Well, you know what? That's very nice. I'm going to keep my day job for now.
If you stick around, she may sing for you later on in the show. That we're always waiting for. Good stuff. All right, I'll hold my breath. All right, up next, what should the president-elect do with the UN going forward? Well, Charles Krauthammer, he's got an idea.
I think that's good real estate in downtown New York City, and Trump ought to find a way to put his name on it and turn it into condos.
Love it. Always quotable. Well, is the United Nations really worth your taxpayer dollars? A closer look at what they actually do next.
And Harry Reid is apparently not so optimistic about the future of his party. He just called the 2020 contenders an old age home. Yeah, he said that. Next.
Imagine if headquarters were in Zimbabwe. The amount of weight and coverage it would get would be zero. I think that's good real estate in downtown New York City, and Trump ought to find a way to put his name on it and turn it into condos.
Now, there's an idea. The last time the White House provided Congress with a full breakdown of annual U.S. funding to the UN, it was $7.7 billion. That's billion with a B, and that was 6 years ago. And in the wake of the UN vote against Israel, is it really even worth that money? Here to break down the numbers, editor of Red Alert Politics, Ron Meyer. Good morning, Ron. I wonder, what do you think, first of all, about Charles Krauthammer's idea? Condos, a new Trump Tower?
You know, if we're getting into different analogies and things we could do, I think it's a lot like the Star Wars Galactic Republic, right? Where it's a bunch of greedy, squabbling delegates and nothing gets done. I mean, that's sort of the problem, is that you look at that sort of investment, you look at almost $8 billion, and that was 6 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And you look just at a simple statistic like this. The UN spends about 32% more on their employees than the same comparable position as the U.S. government. So the money we're giving them is already having a third markup alone. And then you look at who it empowers. It empowers people to do these anti-Israel resolutions. It gives people the same stage. It gives the leader of Iran the same stage as the president of the United States. The real question has to be a cost-benefit analysis. And if you're looking at it from a President Trump and his perspective, it's what's the ROI? What's the return on investment? And for the United States, it's been less and less and less.
Well, Ron, and that's a good point, because I wonder, we just had a presidential campaign where not just Donald Trump, but Hillary Clinton talked, both sides, about how the middle class has been shafted for a long time in this country, and their tax dollars are not being spent wisely. So if you've got a viewer who's putting on their work clothes right now in middle America, what in the world are their tax dollars going to? What is even the rationale for the U.S. and our viewers to be giving their tax dollars over $7 billion a year to the UN? What's even the rationale?
Well, there's a couple things the UN's supposed to do, right? So it's supposed to do food and education aid. And if you look at their history of that, they've had these really big scandals, for instance, in Africa, and especially in Central Africa, where they've used sexual exploitation. So to give out aid in exchange for sex, there's been these awful scandals. And in Haiti, they were spreading disease when they were supposed to be curing disease. And then you go on and you look at what they're trying to do as far as stopping genocide, stopping war crimes, and you see that of the more than 500 times they've been asked to recently, they only responded to 20% of those. And so you're looking at an 80% failure rate for responding to war crimes and genocide. What's the point of having this? And the fact of the matter is that the United States could do this, and for cheaper and in our own interest, where we're not redistributing America's money overseas to countries that hate us. You know, Rand Paul always asks us, and this is a good question, why are we funding countries and giving money to countries that hate the United States of America? How is that in our interest?
Well, someone who is coming to power now and may have a big voice on all of this, of course, is President-elect Donald Trump. He sent out a tweet a couple of days ago. The United Nations has such great potential, but right now it is just a club for people to get together, talk, and have a good time. So sad. Moving forward here, Ron, do you think as president, Donald Trump will be able to actually shake this up? Because others have talked about doing that before. What might be different this time?
Well, I hope he does. And I'm not saying he should necessarily leave the UN, but he should certainly threaten to leave the UN. You know, that's right. The real estate in New York is really valuable. We aren't getting anything from it. We should threaten to leave until we renegotiate the deal. We shouldn't be contributing more than a quarter of the budget alone. We're paying more than 182 other countries combined. And so we need a fair deal. We need a deal where America isn't giving our money to countries that hate us, isn't giving the money to hurt our own allies.
Yeah, a lot of dollars being wasted, and they're the dollars of hardworking American taxpayers.
Well, right, that could be used on American infrastructure, and that's what Trump wants to do.
Ron Meyer, we appreciate you coming in early this morning. Good to see you.
Thank you, Ed.
It was one of the signature pledges of President-elect Trump's campaign.
We are going to fix our inner cities. Every single American will have the opportunity to realize his or her fullest potential.
But can he actually deliver after 8 years of liberal urban policy? We debate that next. And new year, new prices. What's getting more expensive for you? But also, what's getting cheaper in 2017? How about your grocery bill? We've got the numbers. You're going to be surprised.
Welcome back to some quick headlines. Just weeks before he leaves office, President Obama signing the Emmett Till bill, reopening unsolved civil rights cases. Till was an African-American teenager who was lynched in Mississippi in 1955. The move allows the FBI to bring justice to those who committed crimes before 1970. And the president and the Japanese prime minister honoring the lives lost at Pearl Harbor 75 years after that surprise attack that triggered World War II, or at least America's involvement. But the Japanese leader did not apologize.
I offer my sincere and everlasting condolences to the souls of those who lost their lives here.
President Obama also didn't apologize for the atomic bomb when he visited Hiroshima last spring. Abby, over to you.
Thank you, Pete. Well, it was one of the signature pledges of Donald Trump's campaign.
We are going to fix our inner cities. Every single American will have the opportunity to realize his or her fullest potential. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer.
But the question is, can Donald Trump fix the inner cities hurt by Democratic leaders? Here to debate, Fox News contributor Richard Fowler and Deneen Borelli. Good morning to both of you. Thanks for getting up so early. All right, so you heard it there. I mean, this was something that he campaigned hard on throughout his campaign. He talked often about the lack of job opportunities, higher taxes, failing public schools, and the crime. Deneen, the question is now, what does he do about it? How does he make these inner cities better?
Well, sure. Listen, Donald Trump is the only candidate who talked about the serious issues plaguing these inner city communities. And what will he do? Listen, he talked about school choice, the importance of having the power in the hands of parents versus government. That will educate our kids, which is seriously needed in these urban communities. And he also talked about economic empowerment, lower taxes, less regulations. That will incentivize businesses, companies to invest in these communities, to to employ these individuals, because high unemployment is another issue that's plaguing these communities, and bringing companies and to invest in these communities, to hire individuals. That is a great way to employ economic empowerment in these communities, so that there's less crime and people are empowered for their future.
Yeah, and that's what so many people are wanting. Infrastructure, Richard, is a huge issue for President-elect Trump, something he says he hopes to tackle pretty soon when he gets into office. You say that actually could be a great thing for these inner cities.
Absolutely. I think a $1 billion infrastructure bill would be great for these cities. But before the president-elect can do that, he's going to have to take on the members of his own party. One in Washington, but anybody who knows anything knows that for you to fix America's inner cities, you have to work with state governments. And a lot of times, in many state government situations, the state government is what's holding back the inner city. Case in point, Detroit, Michigan. Detroit, Michigan's public schools have been under the control of state House Republicans and the governor for the past 10 years. And in that time, all they did, Abby, was run up the debt and run down the conditions of the schools. This time last year, we were talking about Detroit public schools and the fact that buildings were falling apart. And the reason being is that the governor dropped the ball. So Donald Trump, if he wants to pass a $1 trillion infrastructure bill, I'll support it. But his people in his own party have got to be willing to get the work done and put some elbow grease in their state capitals and across America's inner cities.
Well, Richard, these inner cities have been ran by Democrat politicians for many, many years.
Yes, they have been. Let Deneen finish.
They have been ran by progressive politicians for many years, and you're seeing the high crime rates, the deplorable public schools. You have people who have been in office for many, many years, and they've done nothing for these communities. They're no different than from when they went into office. So how can you talk about what you just mentioned, and you're not even addressing the fact that you have the progressive politicians who have been harming these communities?
So who's been running the Detroit public school system for the past 10 years, Deneen?
You have individuals who are running inner cities
the governor
for
has
many,
been running,
many years. Democrats,
the governor of Michigan, a Republican, has been running the school system.
All right, well, a figure
Detroit.
that will play.
And Newark is another example, Abby, where Chris Christie and Cammie Anderson have been running the school districts for a decade, and those school districts fall apart. So if we're going to have a conversation about fixing the inner cities, let's find out where the problems are, which exist in a lot of state capitals where a lot of federal funds are actually allocated after they're given to the states, and let's have that conversation before we start saying that you can blame Democratic politicians.
Deneen, oftentimes that leadership comes directly from the top. You think about someone like Ben Carson, who's coming in to run HUD. How important is his role going to be?
Well, that's huge, because Dr. Ben Carson grew up in inner city Detroit. He is a success story for these individuals, and I do think he will make a really significant impact in his role at the HUD administration.
Yeah, well, I think we can all agree that changes do need to be made, and that's what matters most in this conversation. Richard, Deneen, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Good to see you.
All right, and now to a Fox News alert. President Obama taking on Vladimir Putin with just weeks left in office. We are live in Washington with those latest details. And no Clinton support, no service. The restaurant sparking outrage for refusing to service customers who voted for President-elect Trump. You cannot make this up. But first, happy birthday to Sienna Miller. The actress is 35 years old today.
A Fox News alert early this morning. The Obama administration reportedly planning to dole out punishment against Russia over its alleged interference in the 2016 presidential race.
But the clock is ticking for the president, who will hand over his executive authority in just less than a month now.
Kristen Fisher is live in Washington, D.C. with the breaking details. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning, Ed, Abby, and Pete. Now, these punishments reportedly include economic sanctions, diplomatic censure, and likely some kind of covert cyber operation. Now, this was first reported by the Washington Post. They say the Obama administration is still finalizing the details and that an announcement about the public portions of this response could come as early as this week. Now, this is all a response to Russia's alleged hacking of democratic organizations like the DNC and its alleged interference in the U.S. election. Both the FBI and CIA say Russia intervened to help Mr. Trump win, but the president-elect has remained skeptical of such reports, and Russia continues to deny any involvement. Still, the Obama administration is continuing to push ahead with these punishments. According to the Washington Post, the White House is now wrestling with how to revise an executive order that was intended to give the president the authority to respond to cyber attacks from overseas, but didn't include efforts to actually influence the electoral system. They're also reportedly trying to make it very difficult for Mr. Trump to roll back any action that they might take. at Abby and Pete.
All right. Thank you for that, Kristen. Good to see you this morning. All right, let's toss over to Lisa Booth.
Yeah,
For
a lot more breaking this morning.
Headlines this morning. Yeah, a lot more news.
A lot more news and a new report revealing a horrifying reality. ISIS terrorists are in our backyard. Honors college students, a Starbucks barista, National Guard engineer, and a cop are all on the list, and all of them are in the Washington, D.C. area. They're guilty of writing pro-ISIS blogs, planning Fort Hood-style massacres, and coaching terrorists on how to avoid getting caught. The report out of Virginia given to intelligence officers to help better identify wannabe terrorists. The future of the Democratic Party is old. That's according to outgoing Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid. When asked if he would support Vice President Biden for 2020, he told New York Magazine, "It depends who's running. It appears we are going to have an old folks home." Yes, you heard me. We've got Elizabeth Warren. She'll be 71. Biden will be 78. Bernie Sanders will be 79. If Hillary Clinton runs again, she'll be 73. Not mincing words there. You can't eat here. A restaurant sparking outrage, telling people who voted for President-elect Trump, find somewhere else to eat. This bright yellow handwritten sign plastered on the front door at Cafe 8 and a Half in Honolulu, Hawaii, reading, "If you voted for Trump, you cannot eat here. No Nazis." The owner now downplaying it, saying everyone is welcome, but the sign is staying up. Doesn't sound so welcoming. Two off-duty firefighters go above and beyond the call of duty when a man suffers a heart attack at the Patriots game. John Toomey and Jim Crocker jumping into action at Gillette Stadium on Christmas Eve.
We could hear yell to his father saying, Dad, wake up, what's wrong?
There was no pulse. We immediately got him out of the seat onto the ground, and we performed compressions and started CPR.
The man is now recovering at home. The firefighters say saving him was like winning the Super Bowl. Thank God for them. And those are your headlines.
That's what those guys do every day.
Yeah, so many heroes out there.
Incredible.
Good for them.
That was a list of news right there.
I know, so many interesting stories. And that restaurant that's refusing to serve anyone that voted for Trump.
So tolerant.
Well, it's in Hawaii where President Obama is right now.
Brings it all back. All right, well, now to some extreme weather and a winter storm strengthening as it heads east before the new year. Thousands are still without power across the Great Plains as they try and dig out from a Christmas Day snowstorm.
The system now moving across the Great Lakes towards New England. 50-mile-per-hour winds leaving a trail of destruction near Boston. You can see this tree right. I can see that one.
Huge.
It's completely crushed a home.
So will this winter storm ruin your New Year's Eve plans? I hope not. But Fox News senior meteorologist Janice Dean is here to give us a scoop.
You mean is it going to ruin Eric Bolling's hair? Is that what you're asking me?
That's a great question. Probably not. That's set to stay forever.
The answer is no. They should be okay. 38 degrees is what I am forecasting with cloudy skies. Let's take a look at the maps because this time yesterday it was 20 degrees warmer here in New York City. It was 58, I believe, was the daytime high, and it's around 38 right now in the city. So it's cold. Winter is back. Let's take a look at the radar and I'll show you where we have our storm system. Now, the map is quiet right now, but this time tomorrow, it's going to be rainy here in New York City and in New England, up towards New England. A big snow event is on its way. So let's take a look at the future radar and I will show you this big storm system. It gathers strength across the Great Lakes and then it transfers its energy to a coastal low, what we call a nor'easter this time of year, where the winds come from the north and east, and we'll advance that and I'll show you the big snowfall totals are going to be up towards New England. Along the coast, it's going to be a rain event. It's going to be too warm for snow, but I think as we get into Friday, we could have some big snowfall totals in northern New England. It's going to be blustery with wind gusts and a big deal, of course, for commuters Thursday into Friday. But the good news is, let's advance. I'll show you where our winter weather advisories are for the Northeast, parts of the Northeast up towards New England. Winter weather advisories already posted. We're going to be talking about this tomorrow. The good news is for New Year's Eve, this storm will clear out and it will be better hair weather for Kimberly and Eric on New Year's Eve. And special thanks to our stage manager, Joel. I don't have my clicker today because we've been having clicker problems all morning long. Yeah. And Joel is our stage manager, but he is also my weather producer this morning. So big round of applause for Joel. We love you, Joel. Thank you so much.
He's not in front of us because he's...
You know what,
he's doing other things.
He's where he was.
He's added things to his resume.
And he is. It's impressive.
He's a man of many talents.
And he's left the floor to us, so we're just going to do whatever we want.
Love you, Joel.
He's amazing.
Thank you, Janice. Well, as you were talking about the new year, it is a new year coming up soon and new prices. Looking ahead to 2017, which purchases will be more budget friendly? And what can you expect to make more of a dent in your wallet?
Joining us now to give a breakdown of pricing trends is financial expert and best-selling author Nicole Lapin. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, Nicole. So what are we looking at here in 2017?
Yeah, so a lot of what Janice was talking about with that severe weather is going to affect prices in 2017. Specifically, let me take you to the grocery store. It's pretty much a mixed bag, and the pun is absolutely intended. Prices are going to go up about 1%. Actually, in 2016, food prices decreased for the first time since the 60s. So what food inflation gods giveth, they also taketh away. We're expecting prices across the board to go up about 1%, but specifically coconut products. So that's all the rage. Coconut oil, coconut milk, coconut water. There's been severe weather in the Caribbean, which is where a lot of the coconuts come from. Also, olive oil is going to go up because of severe weather in Greece and in Italy. I know, don't shoot the messenger. And here's the worst one, vanilla. There's a shortage in Madagascar. So not only are vanilla prices going to go up, that's not just going to affect your spice cabinet, but also all the stuff vanilla is in. So what does that mean? Ice cream, cakes,
I'm part to blame for that.
Sorry,
I love
guys.
coconut, love olive oil. Also, avocados. Those prices have increased over the past year. Here in New York, you get avocado toast for like $20. It's crazy.
Yeah, Abby, it's so crazy. Avocados have gone up about $3 each this year, but avocados will actually go down in price, as will a lot of veggies, peanut butter, go figure, and eggs.
All right. So not just food, but also you've got some predictions on real estate and what we're looking at.
Yeah, so real estate prices, specifically for new homes, are going to increase about 5%. There are a lack of new home lots available, so that's the reason for that. Also, rents should increase about 4%. On the flip side, though, leasing some cars will go down, as well as electric and hybrid cars should go down.
Nicole, what about air travel? Because I've been seeing some reports suggesting gas prices are going up. That often has an impact on what the airlines charge us.
Absolutely. It's nuts. I mean, you have to pay for everything these days, right, guys? United made headlines this year as well for charging for overhead bins for their basic economy. So we're going to see more of that. We are also seeing a lot of British airlines charging for complaints. Seriously. So if you have missing baggage or cancellations and you call them up, you used to be able to complain for free. Now they're going to charge about $33.
Really?
Interesting.
I know. And they're going to send it to mediation, so if they're found valid, you'll get your money back, but if not, you have to pay out.
I mean, they're going to start charging you to breathe on a plane.
No, that sounds worse
than
Abby's. That sounds worse than Abby's avocado toast. I'm worried.
We're going to have a segment about what is avocado toast. But so 2016 was a very entertaining year. 2017, we might have to entertain ourselves. So sports and entertainment, is that going to cost more or less?
So are you happy, Cubs fans? A lot of Cubs fans are very happy, but not season ticket holders. Season ticket holders should expect to pay 20% more. They are definitely cashing in on the World Series success. Also, if you have some DirecTV packages via AT&T, that should increase about $2 to $6 a month, as well as some regional sports packages.
Really? So the Cubs made their fans wait decades to finally win the World Series. They do it, and they've been loyal fans, and now they're going to get jacked up prices of 20% for season tickets. That's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's what you get for winning.
Nicole, thanks for being here this morning. Good to see you.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right, so it has been a crazy year on college campuses, including a massive protest by veterans when a college refused to fly the American flag, the most outrageous college controversies of the year. That is straight ahead.
That is true. I'm still thinking about avocado toast.
It's good, right?
What it is. Maybe we'll have it. And first, he stabbed Israel in the back. Now he's getting ready to free more terrorists from Gitmo. National security expert Jim Hansen there he is. He's here in New York. Here with President Obama's parting shots and why it may leave lasting damage.
Some quick headlines. Caught on camera. A trio of thieves smash through high-end designer store and make off with millions of dollars in fur coats right here in New York City. Police say the crooks knew exactly what they were doing, of course, going right for the sable coats, which could cost up to $200,000 a pop. And a gust of wind sends a man's savings flying through the air right after he withdrew thousands of dollars from a bank. Oh no, this surveillance video shows the guy chasing his cash. Some good Samaritans in China helped him pick it up. Believe it or not, he got all of his bills back. At least that's their story, and they're sticking with it. Pete?
Yep. You got it. President Obama taking 2 parting shots on his way out the door of the White House. The White House hoping to free 22 more Guantanamo Bay detainees before the inauguration on January 20th. So as the U.S. turns its back also on Israel, abstaining on a UN resolution against so-called Israeli settlements. So here to react, Jim Hansen. He's the Executive Vice President for the Center for Security Policy, who also served in the Army Special Forces. Jim, you know these issues back, and you're here in New York. We're glad you are, usually in D.C.
Right on.
So 2 issues, Gitmo and Israel. What are they trying to do with Guantanamo Bay, and how would they get to closing it?
Well, Pete, you know a bit about Gitmo having served there, and the bottom line is Obama's trying to deliver on a political promise, not make a national security decision with that. The people there should not be back in the wild trying to kill Americans and others. So essentially now, he's supposed to release them to countries that will control them in some way. Instead, the only countries that will take them are countries that support terrorism.
Sure.
So he's releasing them back in the wild and giving our enemies free draft picks.
Well, speaking of free draft picks in return to terrorism, we've got the numbers of the recidivism rate, the amount of detainees as of July who return. I mean, that bottom number is sort of a key one. The total confirmed or suspected, upwards of a third of Guantanamo Bay detainees go back to the fight. It even could be higher. How are they looking at this through the lens of a political promise and not a national security imperative?
He wanted to turn terrorism into a law enforcement issue. So he wanted to bring all those guys back to the U.S. and try them in U.S. courts. Fortunately, Congress put a provision in the National Defense Authorization Act that said the Defense Department can't spend a dime to move them to the U.S. and stopped that insane move. They'd have gotten all kinds of constitutional rights that they have no business having, and it would have been a horrible thing and a horrible precedent to set.
So with just less than 30 days to go, based on the roadblocks that Congress has put in place, do you think he can close Gitmo?
No, he can't. And thank God for that. That would have been a horrible mistake. We need a place for people like that.
So he's going to get it as low as he can and try to tie the hands of the president-elect is what the closest he'll get.
And Trump will put a giant sign on it and start stashing bad guys there again.
Well, speaking of stashing bad guys, if you look at what's going on in the UN and the vote and the sort of the blatantly anti-Israel vote that went there, what are they trying to accomplish this late in the game? John Kerry's moving up a speech, hinting at going to the pre-67 borders. What's their end game here?
Obama has been anti-Israel from day one. And as you mentioned, this is another parting shot. And I mean, it's an unearned reward to the Palestinians. They did nothing to deserve it. And Israel did nothing to deserve this kind of condemnation. I mean, the pre-1967 borders are untenable. It's always been known. And both parties have agreed there had to be some kind of land swap to get to reasonable borders. So the settlements have been a faux issue. The Palestinians were going to get other land, and the Israelis were going to keep land that made their borders defensible.
You talked about reasonable exchanges. We're going to put up, I think, some of the ramifications of this UN vote. People think it's just the so-called West Bank, Judea and Samaria. It's a lot more than that. It's the Jewish, the Western Wall, which is the holiest site in all of Judaism. Potential boycotts of Israeli products, settlements. You've got East Jerusalem in entirety, including the Jewish quarter. I mean, this wasn't just about a push for peace. This was a stab.
This was Obama showing his true colors. And again, he is anti-Israel, he is pro-Palestinian, and he's a little bit too aligned with some of our enemies. And I think in the end, he's made peace much more difficult to achieve by putting Israel in a corner, and it's not going to help in the slightest. It's another bad decision he made.
Why now? Is it because Hillary Clinton didn't get elected so they couldn't continue the policies and they're trying to do what they can? I mean, are they trying to force the hand of Trump? What are they doing?
I think he's got a wish list of bad ideas that he's been wanting to do all along, and his political consideration stopped him. Now he's got absolute flexibility, and he's using it to make all of the wishes of the hard left come true.
Totally unchecked. The president-elect, what's the first thing he could do or should do as it pertains to Israel?
As it pertains to Israel, I would put the pressure on the UN to repeal this. Number one, we are the U.S. We do pay 22% of the freight for the UN. He could cut off the money. And he's Donald Trump. He's got friends in New York City. I'd cut off their electricity.
All right, money and electricity. We'll see which one of those happens with Jim Hansen. Good to see you in New York. Enjoy the stay with your family as well. All right, coming up, if the mainstream media won't give him credit, the president-elect, well, he's just going to do it himself, as Jim mentioned. Why Mr. Trump is thanking himself. Yes, he's thanking himself. And from one professor calling for the assassination of NRA supporters to another calling for the ban of Trump voters. Kevin Phillips with Campus Reform. There he is right there in the hallway with Abby. He's breaking down the most outrageous college controversies. He's shadowboxing as well of the year ahead. Campus craziness. You're not going to want to miss it.